What's up, everyone? This is part 2 of the E46 teardown. In this video I plan to finish getting the front end off the car, get the engine out of it, figure out a few other odds and ends I need to do to that. There probably will be quite a bit of time-lapse footage in this video as well as the last video. Like I explained before, I've got quite a bit of background noise. I don't have a mic for the camera yet, so I felt it's just the best way. And it's a way to, film footage and not make a 40+ minute video. So this video may take quite a few days to film as I do odds and ends things. So I plan on getting a lot of footage throughout this video and explaining the swap, what all we did to it, because I've had a lot of questions. There's a couple things we need to redo as well, and I will explain as to what we did in our quick 2.5 week swap and what we want to fix and a few other odds and ends. Not very many people have put a small block Chevrolet in an E46. So when we did this swap, we went into it completely blind. We didn't know what we were doing. So now that we've done some R&D, we're going to redo a few things and make it that much better. So the two main things I'm going to get figured out this winter as what needs fixed, it's developed an oil leak. It gets ran hard, so that's understandable. So I got to figure out where that's at. It's got a oil pan that I'm not a big fan of on it, so I want to get that replaced while it's out. And also when we did our motor mounts, which you're probably not going to be able to see them due to the light, we had to hand build motor mounts, and we had to hand build exhaust. The exhaust needs changed. As you could hear in the previous video, it has a terrible leak. Part of that's from with the car being so low, I have hit it off the ground. It's got a small hole in it, but it needs redone. It's got a set of block hugger headers. Obviously, if we go with a turbo, I'm going to try and turn them out the front or do something else. The biggest problem I have is the steering shaft. Also, I'm going to try to change my front runner system. It's just V-belts right now, but I don't like the way the alternator setup is. Like I said, it was a quick, easy, way to make it work to get through the season. Another thing is, if you look, the engine's actually sitting a little bit crooked because the one motor mount we built actually started to bend. It's safe, it's not going to break, but it started to bend, so the motor's sitting a little crooked. So we're going to redo the motor mounts and get the engine straightened back up. I think we're going to try and redesign a steering shaft and run it more over along the frame rail and turn it down into the rack. That way I can try and put a set of rather long tube headers on it, or get a set of headers that'll work with a turbo if we go that route. Nothing's set in stone yet, but regardless, the car needs new exhaust. So if I don't end up going with a turbocharger, it's going to have long tubes. This was just a quick, easy solution as to get it running. I'm going to see if I can't get rid of the power booster and the ABS module and try to maybe go with one of the master cylinders that Drift HQ sells. I'm going to work on getting rid of the original DME box over winter. There's nothing in it now except for the main power wire, and the neutral safety switch on this car still works. And then over here underneath this little cover we built is a hornet's nest of wiring, just some different, the coils under there, fuse links are under there, different things are under there that I just want to clean up. you know, make it look a little bit better. You know, do a little bit more, you know, spend a little bit more time on it now that we're not rushing. So that is the main goal for pulling the engine out over winter, as well as trying to get some more power added to the car. Debated on putting a aftermarket bash bar on the front, but I think I'm going to leave the factory one. But I am going to try to add an oil cooler out here somewhere. And I've also been looking into what all would go into putting an intercooler on the front of it. All in all, just some odds and ends things I want to clean up. I thought about repainting the engine bay again, but I don't know what color I'd want to paint it. I don't mind the silver. It's just a duplicolor wheel paint, and it looks incredible. But regardless, just want to clean it up, do a few different odds and ends. Going to try and paint the car over winter, and plan to get a ton of footage. Engine is out. It's filthy dirty. It developed an oil leak at some point through the year that I kept chasing and couldn't find. But next step is get it out here on the floor, get the transmission separated from it, and get it on a stand. Couple things I'm really going to try to get done over winter. We're going to redo the steering shaft. It is right in the way. It has a late model based steering coupler on it now, which helped, but it is still right in the way. Try to get all this junk cleaned up. You can see where we had to cut on the firewall a little bit to get the motor down in it, but other than that, it fit really well. I'm going to try to come up with some sort of a block off plate for this, but I'm going to try to keep all this and hook the heater back up on the car over winter because it has no heat. I can live with no air conditioning, but when I do drive it in the cold, there's no heat. Tuck my wires back up. These are the main power wire. They were tucked up nice and neat, but I had to cut everything loose. Do something else with the fuel line and fuel pressure regulator. Like I said, everything, if you see something that looks like it's half done, that's because we were in a very big hurry, and like I said, we had this car running and driving in a little over 2 weeks. So I figured as I'm pulling a couple accessories off this thing, I would talk about it a little bit for the few people watching that are actually interested in the engine itself. This is a regular 350 small block Chevy. The block is a 4-volt main 010 block. We punched it, I believe, 30 over to make it a 383. It has a scat crank, PBM rods, which PBM and scat are basically sister companies. It's got a 600-inch solid lift Earson cam in it. It's got a Wii and Team G intake. It's got 1.6 roller rockers. We cut and made ports in the back of the intake to add these water lines to help it run cooler. That's a little trick that's used in dirt racing quite often. It's nothing really much more than just like a typical cookie cutter motor. This would make a heck of a little steel block late model motor. It would do pretty good as in like a Nova or Camaro as a drag car motor. The cam's a little big. We're going to end up redoing the cam, probably make it a little bit smaller. We're going to raise the compression unless I decide to put a turbocharger on it, which is not out of question. I had a Muncie 4-speed behind it with a 10.5-inch aluminum flywheel. The clutch is pretty well done, but it was just a Napa clutch to get it running, so it's got to get a better clutch put in it over winter. and I'm going to try to find a T56 transmission for it. It does have a progression ignition. This distributor is tunable by my phone. I can set a timing table and tune it while driving down the road, essentially like you would with a laptop with an LS, and it has been life-changing. I could feel it on track. It felt like it was a little bit sluggish. I took, while setting on grid, pulled my phone up, pulled 3 degrees of timing out of it. It felt like it gave it another 30 horsepower, and it actually ran cooler. So that way it told me, at least on the big end, it likes a little bit less timing. It had a KB carburetor on it, custom built by Carson Bloom. He's the same guy that builds carburetors for the late models. They are awesome, but I still think I'm going to put a Holley Sniper on this thing over winter, just because of where it is getting hot started so much and the abuse and still street driving it. I don't mind the carburetor at all, but going with boost and stuff, I think I'm just going to modernize it a little bit and put a Sniper on it. Maybe, maybe not, but if I can find a good deal on one, I'm going to put one in it. And we'll redo the front runner system. It's a short water pump. Debating on putting a long water pump and a serpentine system on it. Regardless, for what it is, it's a budget-built engine. It runs exceptionally well. Obviously, there's a few things I want to do to make it run better. Like I said, if I keep it in A, we'll raise the compression, drop the cam a couple sizes. It'll still sound just as good, but it'll run even better. I can turn it 7,000 RPM, no problem. We went with this route just to be different. I have nothing against an LS. I just want to be different, because in a world where there's 8 million E46s on track now, and there's about 4 million of them that have LSs in them, just want to be a little bit different. This is probably the easiest swap you could do, but no one does it anymore. So it hasn't really given me any issues other than things that have been like user error or things that I missed when we did do the swap. But as far as the engine itself, it's been great. It's got aluminum Pro Max heads on it. They're very affordable. They're like right at $1,000 complete, and we changed valve springs in them due to the size of the cam. But I believe they are a 202 or 208 intake valve. For the money, they're great. So yeah, pretty simple engine. And I'm going to finish getting some accessories knocked off of it here, get the rest of the water drained out of the heads and stuff before the dead of winter sets in. And hopefully we'll have some content up with Justin's E90 soon, or even an update on his 240. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a good one.